Granny, let me just introduce you to the camera.
Lovely.
This is Granny.
Yeah.
This is Rachel.
And I am Granny. I'm a granny from 8 grandchildren, yeah? 8 grandchildren, and Kayla's 3, Charles has 3, and Morris has 2. That means 8 grandchildren, please God.
Now, we're actually trying to put the life story of Granny
Yeah,
on
yeah,
camera,
yeah.
so that all the great stories that
Of my life.
that you've told us will not be lost,
Yeah,
and that we'll be able to hear them in many, many years to come,
yeah,
and
yeah,
laugh all the way.
yeah.
And so I think what we should do is we should start when you were 10 years old.
Yes, I think I could remember when the war broke out in 1914, and we have been then in a place in Poland, in a town called Szlapak. When we could hear already the shooting, which were not far behind our town, then my father and mother decided that we will pick up the big business, which we had. We call out from Bialystok packers, and they will pick up all the shop with the materials, and that they did. And I remember like today, we had 14 kippers. Kippers is a bundle that the baker makes. And then just a moment, no. Then my father ordered for us a goods train, a goods wagon, that we could take all our goods in the goods wagon and our family. So my mother and the children picked up in that goods wagon, and a Zeppelin came. At that time it was Zeppelins. It looked like a little pig. And they dropped a bomb on the line, so we couldn't go away. So we stayed over in the train till tomorrow. And on the tomorrow, my mother said, let me see whether I have all my children. And she said, 1, 2, 3. Oh, where is Simcha? No, Schlemke. Oh, where is Schlemke? I forgot him in the house. So she ran back to the house, and Schlemke was sleeping in bed. So they took Schlemke, put him in the train. So she had all the children. So she accounted, she had Schlemke, she had, it was like this, Sam, Schlemke, and Simchale, and me and Chaitschele, 5 kinder, 5 children. So
Solly was there too.
Solly was together. So we had 5 children. And my father said, you go with the goods train, because that'll take a long time, but I will take the passenger train, so I will arrive quicker, and I will prepare for you a house where to come down. So my father went with the passenger train, and we started to go with the goods train. Now, if I will tell you how you come with the goods train and how you eat, you wouldn't believe. But in the meantime, I'm terribly thirsty, so interrupt for 1 moment, I'll have a cup of tea. Tea coming, child. For 1 moment. we went slowly, we started slowly to go to the, to go with the train. So say you come in a station farther, and you're already hungry, you want to feed your family. So you have in the goods train, you have, it's called a camphorka. It's like today the Africans are using to cook with charcoal on top, and underneath you make the fire. But that was a round piece of iron with 3 legs. You put this on the ground, you put the wood underneath, you make the fire, you put your pot on top, and you cook. What do you cook? Kukurudza. It's yellow millimel. And while it starts to cook, the train decided, the conductor of the train decided that we have to go. So he gave the whistle. Phew! You hot the water and you pull on the fire, you hot the hot things, you hot your pot, you are in the train, you are going correct. Finished. So the next train, you do it again. Water you take on this in the station, there is always boiled water. Like this, we were going and going and going till we came to a place called Orsha, deep into Litva. There we stayed for another 6 weeks. And then we went back, we took again a goods train, and we came deep into Russia, Tambov, where my father was waiting for us. He was waiting on the train when we came in. He said he found for us a place where to live. We took a big, long wagon and put all the goods on the wagon. It was like a wagon like you transfer today, motorcar, a long one like a platform. All the goods we took and we brought to the place where my father rented for us, a basement room where the servant of the lady was upstairs and the servant was living downstairs, and there the servants cooked. So there the lady gave us one room from the servants' quarters. And we put in all our goods. I remember we were sitting on top of the goods so we could see. We were near the window and we could see all the legs. And my father said to my mother, Kelinka, ich fühl sich nicht gut. I don't feel well. What I want is to put you in a shop and make a start for you. And he went away and he rented a shop, a very beautiful, long shop. And the lady who rented the shop, her name was Ivleva. And there he took all the goods and he put in the shop and unpacked with mother and put on the shelves. And it didn't take long, he was very ill. We couldn't get a good doctor. It was a chaos. It was like today in Somalia. Thousands and thousands of people have come, and nobody had where to stay, and you couldn't get a doctor. If you asked today for a doctor, you could get it maybe in 3-4 days' time. So my mother decided she'll put my father in the hospital. And we were going every day to see my father. And my mother was already in the shop, and she had a salesman, and she had other people to help her to sell. The language she knew, the Russian. So it wasn't difficult, the goods she had. And it didn't take long, my father died. My father couldn't take any more food. He didn't want to go to the military in his days. In his days, the military, the Russian military was maybe 10 years, maybe 8 years, very difficult for Jewish people. So everyone tried to do what they could in order not to be accepted. So what did he do? For a full year, he was drinking bicarbonate of soda and eating very little. So he burned his inside. And he couldn't take any food. But in Poland, where we were in Lapi, it was Russia then, he had his doctors in Warsaw. I remember his name was Soloveychik. At one time he had an operation. My mother told me that all the insides were on the table. And they repaired it, and they washed it, and they did everything. And mother fed him. An egg had to be for my father so fresh that the chicken just laid it. The milk had to be very fresh. She used to close the door, she told me, in the window, that the neighbors shouldn't hear the smell, because she did for him little chicken lachte, cipelonki we call it. You know, the 5, 6 chicks. But she used to cook this in butter, and that she gave father. But that was a crime in our place, because it's not kosher. But mother was terribly devoted to my father. And like she kept him. But when we came to there, they didn't have the food for him, they didn't have an hospital what he needed. He became thinner and thinner and thinner. And at one time I was there, and he took down the blanket and he said, a person like this can live, and a foot came out, it was bones, it was nothing on it. It didn't take long, my father died. I remember I went with my mother to the funeral. He found out that there is a relation of ours, Sheme, and he did the everything what a Jewish person, how it has to be conducted with the brochas on the cemetery. And I remember my mother said, if not for Sheme, your father would have been thrown in the earth like a potato. Those were her words. She was very devoted to Sheme and very thankful. And later Sheme and his family came to live with us in the same place in Tambov, in the same building. We had one room and they had another room. And somebody else had a room. There were 3 rooms. And we cooked in a kitchen, all the 3 of us. That was how it is. Then my little sister Chaichale got very ill. Chaichale got measles on the way. With measles you have to keep warm and in the darkness. It couldn't be warm in the train and it couldn't be dark in the train. And the measles went inside. And she started to get convulsions, and she was very ill. There I think we got a doctor, but she died very quickly after my father. So we buried my Chaichale also. She was only 3 years old, or 2 years, very small, maybe 2.5 years. I remember I used to research, you know, on a cradle. How do you call it in English? If you...
Rock the cradle.
A rock, yes, I remember. I used to rock the cradle and sing for her. She died. So we remained, 3 of us, 4 of us. Because Chaichale died, we were 5. And Simcha, Sem went to Cheder, and Soli went to Cheder. And Simchale went to Cheder. And they didn't like Simchale. I think Simchale came on Sam and said, wait a minute, I will nicht gehen in Cheder. It's the walls are from lame, from what is lame? I haven't got a word for it. You know, you make lame cement and sand, and you make together, and then
Glue?
Not glue.
What?
how do you build a house and you take a stone with a stone and you make them together?
Concrete.
Concrete. He said, it's concrete walls. I don't go to a cheder like that. And he came back. Then Soli get lost. He had to come from cheder. He forgot how to come. He got lost. He went to the police station. So, and we went to complain that we lost her. My mother went to complain she lost her son. So they said in that police station there is a little boy, a Jewish little boy. So my mother came and got him, brought him back. And we asked him, what did they give you to eat? And he said, beans. So we called it berla. From that day on, there wasn't solid. It was berla kum, berla gay. And we laughed from here. We laughed from Simcha, we called him a Wayman event. He was talking with a L, Wayman event. And this was, and we went on, the children went on. And I had to be the mommy. Because my mommy went away early morning to the business and she left me with the children. The girl, the ladies' girl, she cooked for us. But I had to feed them, I had to warm up the food. I had still a lot to do. See that they are dressed, that they are undressed, that they go to rest. It went on like this for quite a while. Then we got a very nice house, a double-story one, and we went over to live in that double-story house. At that time, I was already growing up. My mother took for me a teacher that she came to the house to teach me because I was already 11, more than 11. I couldn't start in the beginning. So I had to learn privately that that I can go to the gymnasium. I remember the girl which came to teach me hanged up in our kitchen a big map. And she taught me. She taught me geography, mathematics, reading, writing. And then one day, I was I think the 3rd class I went in. And I had to have the exam. And my mother combed my hair and washed and made two tzepelach like that. And a beautiful red ribbon here and a red ribbon here. And she looked at me and her eyes were twinkling like I had a beautiful child. And I went away for that test and everything was good. The geography was perfect. The mathematics was also good. But when it came to dictation, I made a few mistakes. And it came out, the result, that I'm not through to the 3rd class of gymnasium. I have to learn more, and they'll give me in a few months' time another exam. And I took again the teacher, and she was teaching me. In meantime, the communists came up very strongly, and you couldn't buy any more goods. You could sell a lot, but there wasn't where to buy. You couldn't go to Moscow to buy the goods. And my mother decided to close the shop. She closed the shop. And quite a bit of goods she brought over to the house, and the rest was sold. You could sell, but you couldn't buy. And she never went to the shop again. For the goods which we have, we used to go and get something to change material for flour. I remember we had a sack of flour. That was a fortune, a sack of flour. So we could bake bread. And most probably meat, she changed for. I know we weren't hungry, we had enough food. And the money which we had, my mother, in the window sill was as white as that. The building in Russia is as thick as that. And here where the window is a piece of wood, the sill of the window. And my mother lifted up that wood and scooped out a few bricks houses are built there from bricks. And she put all her money there. And she covered again with the wood, and here we put cups and saucers. But the communists knew that we are very rich people. One night they attacked us. We knew that the time is a very dangerous one. So my mother get herself a big piece of iron arrangement that you put on the beginning of the door and you put up till here on things like this. And then you take a key, a lock, and the lock was such a long one. And we had the key like this, like this, like this, and that was locked. But we were upstairs, so the only things we had to safeguard is our door. The door was safeguarded. A wagon of people came down, they came to the door and they said, open up the door, we have to make a search. You are having business, you are brewing Bronson, liquor. You are making liquor. So open up the door, we have to have a search. My mommy said, I won't open the door. You come tomorrow morning. That was maybe 12 o'clock at night, maybe 11 o'clock at night. Winter, full of snow. You looked outside, everything was white. She said, no, I won't open the door. Come in the morning. They said, open the door. Mommy said, no, I won't open the door. So they start to tear the door, like that, like that, like that, like that. Then my mommy heard that the door is starting to give. She said, children, everyone open the window and cry, Gewalt in Radwes. That means, save us, Jewish people, Gewalt, save us. Not far, but maybe an old block away was a meeting, and one of the people heard it. He said, I think it's a Jewish voice. They asked for help. They went out and they heard, the echo came, and they heard, and they started to whistle. At that time, everybody had a whistle. And if you were attacked, you whistle for police. You whistle, and the police have the gun on them. So they whistled. They got frightened. They said, подожди, не раха. Возьмем больше силы и придем. That means you wait, you ugly one. We'll take more strength and we'll come back. Till the morning, when the people didn't come to us because we stopped to shout. I think they came and we explained to them what it is. And in the morning, my mother went to the police station to explain what had happened in the night. And when she came back, she said, I think it's the same people. So she said, you know what, Kinderla, we are going back to Poland. They didn't get us this time, they'll get us another time. They marked us that we have the money, they will kill us and they'll take the money. Let us go. She went away, I don't know where. But she came with a permission that she can go back to our place. Our place was then Germany. German occupied. Russia lost and German occupied. So we came back to Germany, to Latvia. And when we came back, Avi, what can I tell you? It was only hunger. Everybody craved for food, and food you couldn't get. But we still brought with us goods. So we used to go to the villages, but only the children could go. I used to go, my mother's sister's children used to go. There were another two families, my mother's sister, the children. We used to go to the village and bring potatoes, flour, milk, butter, eggs, for the goods, whatever they want to exchange it. And like this we went on till Russia lost and Germany lost. in Germany, a revolution broke out. You will find it in the history. The revolution broke out because they lost the war, so they had all kinds of complaints that if the leader wasn't a good one, and the Germans ran away, and the Russian came back, so they had another war, and the Polish people stood up and said, we were occupied for 100 years, now we want our Polska back, nasza Polska. And it was, I think it was in Versailles, a session, and they got Poland back. So we became Polanders. So I didn't know Polish. So I couldn't go to school. So I took a teacher. But my mother said, you can't afford to pay for a teacher. I said, okay, Mommy, I'll find another girl, we'll share the hour. So I find the girl, Cerebrolo. She went with me to the teacher, which was in a school, and she gave us lessons. And like this I learned till maybe I was 20. Private. And then I went to Bialystok to have a session for bookkeeping. I finished a bookkeeping course. In the night you go, in evening classes. So I had the bookkeeping course, and I read a lot of Polish and Yiddish books. Yiddish, I can tell you, there isn't one book, a Jewish one, that I didn't read, because I was all the day in the shop with my mother. In the evening I used to go for the lessons. Then I used to make my lesson. Then I used to read. I was a great reader. I could read sometimes till the morning. One time I remember my mother came in and she said, Rochele, why are you getting up so early? I said, Mommy, I didn't go to sleep. I was reading. So she gave me a good telling off. Yeah. And I helped her in the business. I helped her and I helped her. I was, from the morning, from my bed onwards, I went in with mother in the business. And then mother used to go away to Warsaw to buy the goods. And I had to look again after Soli, after Sam. And I remember my granny liked me very much. She was staying with us.
What was her
My
name?
granny's name was Shane Reisel. And she died when she was about 92. And my granny was such a good person. I don't think there is another one in the world. She used to stay and look that I was selling, I was in the shop, I was talking. She used to bring me a glass of cocoa and say, drink, drink, drink. You have talked such a lot, you must have a dry throat. So she gave me. And she said to my mommy, at one time I remember, she said, this one will be a very rich one. Everything I give her and I ask her, oh, is it good? I used to say, Bobby Geschmack. Geschmack, it's very good, it's tasty. So the cousins called me Geschmack. That was my name.
Okay. So you arrived in Poland after the Bolsheviks attacked the shop, right?
Yes, so we arrived to Poland, and I think I told you that we used to take goods from the house and go to the village and exchange for food. We could bring flour, potatoes, eggs. Only children could go because the Germans were terribly strict. It was beschlagen. You don't have to make business. You don't have to go and bring food. Why, I don't know. Anyway, they would arrest you, but for children, we could get away with that. So we used to bring to the house the food, and that was what we had, what we brought. And then I told you that we opened a shop with all kinds of goods was in it, and my mother used to go to Warsaw and buy the goods to stock in the shop. And I used to stay with her all the day, but I didn't know Polish now. And I was too old in 1919, and I'm born in '05, so I was 14 already. And I didn't know Polish, so I couldn't go to school. So I said I'll make, if mother would allow me to have some lessons. But she said, yes, lessons, but it's expensive. So I said, okay, then I will go and I will find a girl which will share with me the expense. She will also come. And I find Serebrolov. I forgot her name. The surname was Serebrolov. And we were going at 5 o'clock for the lesson, and then we were reading, and she made with us dictations, and she gave us out the work to do at home. The main point, the system in Poland is what you read, you have later to make up yourself to recite, you would say, and not in the book, but from your cop. Say you read a story, so you don't have to say word by word, but yourself you have to put this together. And this is quite difficult because you have to remember. So, and then the same you have to write, and of course arithmetic and geography. And I went on like this for quite a long while with Serebrolov. Then she was my friend. We used to go together, speak together. That was, and then I started to read. In the meantime, I didn't know so much Polish. I didn't know the authors. So I read a lot of Jewish books. Shalom Aleichem and this one, whichever Jewish writers there are, I read them. And I start to love the Jewish language. And the language from the writer, with all the words. And the writers mostly describe the poorness from the shtetl, the simpleness, but the goodness, how one helped the other one, and about the holidays, Yom Tovim or Pesach. For instance, there was a very poor man in one shtetl, and he always lived from what he was given. At one time on Pesach, they saw he was carrying a goose. Oh, they said, I forgot the name. They said, oh, where did you get the goose? How did you manage to get the goose? And the money for the goose. He said, look, a goose I knew I will have to buy, because nobody will give me. But matzahs, no Jew will let me on Pesach without matzahs. Matzahs, they will bring it. But a goose, he had to buy himself. I forgot his name, but there was a lot of stories about this poor man. And all kinds of the history of for a father. I read everything. And then I started to read Polish, and a lot. And I started to go to the cinema. We had, at that time, there were the pictures without a voice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Only you were reading the titles. And my cousin used to come and say, Rochale, today is Tsudne. That is beautiful. Today the film, once a week on Saturday evening. Today the film is Tsudne. And my mother called her, the Zudnischen gewesen, sie schleppt doch schon in Cinema. And cinema was money. But we went by the, and then there were all kinds of tunes, and we sang. It was fun, it was a lot of fun. Then I formed a company. We were 3 girls and 3 boys. Very nice girls, and we were the leaders from the town. We made up, for instance, shows, we played, we went for rehearsal, and when we played, we took a certain amount of money, and that was all for Israel. I belonged to the Beitar, and all my company was the Beitar, and we used to go out. If it was a wedding, we used to put a blue, like this, a lente it's called, a ribbon, and I had a box with little flowers and a pin, and I used to walk up to the bride and to the bridegroom. I pinned on them the things, and they gave me money for Israel. The blue box, it was called. And always together with another girl. I never went by myself. That was the style. So we made money that way, the weddings, and then the shows, we made money, and then we were reading. We were reading and discussing the books. I remember one thing sticks in my mind. It was a man that was he was bringing water to all the town, to the houses. And he was schlepping all the day the water with a stick like that, and the water was hanging like that. You go and you collect the water, and you come to the place where you give the water, and you bring 6 waters, 6 kubels. Kubel is a pail, is kubel in Polish. And you go to this one and to that one and to that one. All the day you take the water. And in the evening, you have very little, you earn very little. So at one time, he was asked, what would you want when God will want to pay you for the good deeds you did on the earth? He said, I would like a piece of bread and butter. That was his asoge, you know. I remember we discussed that, how one can be like this, not demanding. We could go after lunch to the Zal and read, and the man that was the leader was my friend. He loved me very much, and I liked him very much. He was terribly clever, he was a genius, but he was so ugly. It was something. I think he was the ugliest man in the world. But I liked him, because he was very clever, and we talked and we talked and we talked, and we never could finish the talk. At one time, the town started to notice that I'm too much going with Mochke. So they started to say, and it was brought to me, such a beautiful girl goes with such an ugly boy. And my mother asked me, Rochale, what he said? I said, Mommy, I like him. Mochke is very nice. She said, but do you know that one of his brothers died of consumption? And he was thin, he was very thin. And she said, he comes from a family like that. Don't go with Mochke, because nothing came out for that. And Mochke started to be very serious and started to talk to me, how much he would provide for me, how much he would do for me. In meantime, we had a voyageur. A voyageur is a man that brings you goods. He is a salesman from a factory or from a company. He used to bring us goods, green woolen material that we sold is only to the leshniks, to those who are working in the forests. It was a special material that from his, my husband comes from Niezbudko Michalovo, only 20 miles from us. And there was the factory, and he gave us the first option. Only we had that goods. It was there. And at one time, I went to Bialystok, and I photographed myself.
Mhm.
And he saw the photograph, and he said, "Have a look whether it's doing the work. You think it's doing?"
Mhm.
And so he said, "Oh, hey, Mrs. Garfield, yeah. Mrs. Garfield, give me the picture to show to my family. I always talk about your daughter." And he took the photograph, and they all looked, and they put my picture in the, there was a watch on the wall, you know, with the mirror in the olden times with the medallion. So they put the picture like that. And my husband, Abraham's sister, was a friend with his daughter. So she came and said, "Oh, who is that?" And she said, "This is the Rochale from Lapi. Oh, give it to show it to my mommy." So she took the picture to her mother. And Abraham saw it. And Abraham was davening in the same shul where that shochet was. He said, "I've seen the picture from the Rochale that you are coming. I want to meet her. I want to meet her." And it started to bother him. And he came to my mother. And he told her about it. And she said, "Well, she goes today to Bialystok for goods. She'll come from the train. You stay and wait, and she will not know. And you will introduce him." So he has done it. I come down from the train. I give my ticket like this, and I go. Shochet is here. "Oh, how are you? How are you?" And everything in Polish. So, and he introduced me to Abraham. And he introduced me, and I say, "I'm very sorry, I have to buy all the things, but we can meet at 6 o'clock when I finish to do my work." At 6 o'clock, Abraham was there. He took me from the shop, and I never could turn my head. He was like, what shall I tell you? He didn't let me to turn my head like this. He was there. If I turned my head, he was there. If I looked like that, I couldn't, I was no more myself. He took me in the evening to a restaurant. He went up to the music, and he said they should sing "Kupice Lubochki." You know that melody? It's beautiful. "Kupice Lubochki, la 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 la." Beautiful song. And they played for us that. And in the end, he took me to the train. It was 12 o'clock in the night. I went back to town. He took me like this for the lapels. He said, "You're mine." I said, "I'm myself. I'm nobody else's." Anyway, tomorrow he rang me in the evening. He rang me. I couldn't get rid of him. It was something like a pest. In the end, he saw he can't do anything with me. He came a few times. He bothered me. I told him, "Look, I made up my mind. I'm going to New Zealand." That was at that time, young people used to go to New Zealand. I wanted to go to New Zealand. I said, "I made up my mind. I'm going to New Zealand. I don't want to remain in Poland." He said, "So we will go together." Anyway, he couldn't do anything with me. So he started to talk to my mother. My mother liked him very much. She said, "I'm too lucky. I'm born in a Eberle." that a krasavitz like this wants me. Such a beautiful boy, and he was beautiful. He was beautiful. So it was out with Mochke. He took her to his mother, and my mother told me they spoke all the night. She talked about what a wonderful son she had, and my mother said what a wonderful daughter she had. And in the end, the two mothers arranged that on Christmas Day the shop will be closed. She has to come and announce to me that I'm going to be engaged, but this is no things to do. Just, you're engaged. And in Christmas Day on the 25th, I'll be married because the shop is closed. We have the time. And I fell on my mother's shoulder and I cried and I said, I cannot do that. I want to go away. I will remain in Poland if I get married. I hate the place. I want to go to New Zealand. And my mommy's answer was, look, Rochelle, I'm ill. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't want to leave you by yourself. And I was on her shoulder. She cried and I cried. And she said, you have to do as I tell you. And I agreed. I agreed, and I was married on the 25th in 1928. And Abraham came to us to stay with us. We had very little. We had a shop, but not more than the shop. And we had our own shop. It was ours, and our own house, ours. That's true. But Sam, from time to time, sent us money from Johannesburg. Sam was already in Johannesburg. Sam went away in 1925. And he used to send from time to time. It was tight, he sent money. I stayed on in the shop with my mother. And that I told you that my granny used to bring me the cocoa and say, my throat is dry, I have to drink. And my mother and Abraham arranged, he had przedstawicielstwo, that is an agency from the petrol, what is the petrol? The petrol to the cars.
Fuel, benzene.
Yes, but the firm, what does it, it is, has a name to which firm it is.
Mobil, Shell.
Shell, he had a Shell. That they, in this place, they had Shell's petrol and a diesel. So he brought into our place that, and he went away to Galicia to buy that, and he bought a full wagon of that to bring to Lapi and start to distribute that. But when the wagon will arrive, my mother and me and him, we were lying on the floor from laughter. My mother used to say, the car stupt sich. And als het kommen, wusste er mein Geld zu bezahlen. We didn't have the geld. But Abraham he was like that. And when the wagon came and we had to pay the money and we didn't have, so we went to our relations in Sakole and we borrowed from this one and from that one and from this one and from that one, and we collected the money and he bought out the petroleum, he bought a wagon and a Fuhr mit a wagon mit a Pferd, a long things like that with a horse, and he had barrels and he pumped in the barrels the petroleum, and he went to mills, to factories, to some organizations needed, and he was selling the petrol. So he was selling that, and I was in the shop. But we couldn't make a living.
Where did you live together?
Yeah, with my mother together. And Simchale and Soli. Only Sam was in South Africa.
And you told me Abram was educated.
Very much so. Very much. In their house, they had teachers in the house. And the teachers were teaching them Hebrew, Chumash, Tanakh, Gemara, not only the boys, but the girls also. And when he came to us, he was religious. He used to daven every day and put on tefillin and daven. And I didn't see that. My father died in Russia. And I didn't see what it is. Tefillin, daven, and I thought it's mission. But my mother respected that. So he davened, and he was very frum, and he took me to shul to go every Friday. And I start to look in the Siddur. My mother used to go, yeah? And then I was married, I used to go. And he was reading Gret's history in Hebrew and understood everything. When we came already to Hanale in 1950, I think. The first time we arrived to Israel was 1950. Kayla was already a kleine Mädel. He was sitting on the veranda. She was living in Shkunat Chap, not where she is now. But there was a place, they called it Shkunat Chap, because when the people arrived from all the places, it was an empty place, everyone kept a piece. And they built up a little house and nobody did anything. And that was called Shkunat Chap. We were there living with Hannah. We came for a month or for 6 weeks. You know, she had only 2 rooms. She had 1 bedroom and a big, big sitting dining room. And there was a sofa. Litka was sleeping there. And for us, and Kayla, we had a bed like this she put up. I think Kayla slept on the floor. But we slept. And Hannah was cooking whatever we could. It was hunger in Israel. We were going to the black market and buying a pushke of bulle beef. And she was cooking a lot of chatzelim. And that we ate.
Did Abram like Israel?
Very much so. He was, what shall I tell you? When I went with him on Ben Yehuda, he was so excited that he is in Israel that he took out money from the pockets and he gave every poor man. As I was sugar now. I said, you behave yourself. People will think you're mad. He said, ich bin sehr zufrieden, ich bin in mein Land. He was such a, what can I tell you? I wasn't like that. Later I became like that. Or with Abraham's influence. Later I became a great worker for Israel. But he said like that. We will buy the Kiron. We bought the Kiron. He will be so many months here, and then it will be so many months there in our flat. And once a week, he will get a car, a driver, and he will buy all the food and everything. For a week, he will stock up, and like this we will live but in Israel. And we bought, when we came, when Caleb was already at university. I read in the papers that they are going to build Kiron. It's going to be for the military, but a lot for private people. A South African group is building this. They are building with central heating from underneath. It was unearthed in those years. It was in 1955 or 60. I don't know. Have a look whether it does.
Carry on.
I don't remember the year, but I read in the paper I was sleeping in Air University. The Imam Bayit gave me a place with Kayla. And I read in the paper that they are selling Quran. You have to pay only 10%. And then slowly you will pay off. It'll be built in about 2 years' time. It'll take to build. And I discussed this with Hannah, and I discussed this with somebody else, and they said it's a nice place. And I went to the office, and they told me, and they showed me the map, what's going to be. And I said, I want to see the manager. I spoke to the manager, and he showed me the building. I said, you know what? I don't know the place. Do me a favor, choose for me the best you can think it is. And tell me a good neighbor. So he said, you know, there is a neighbor. He was at that time a pilot. Now his mother is there. Rena, a French lovely lady. You will take a letter to her. And this flat is that I advise you to take. It's on the 4th floor. It's only two flats on that floor. You come with the lift to the 5th one, and you come down to the 4th one. And he showed me everything. How much is it? Something 35,000. I don't know. I think it was like 35,000, and I have to pay 3,500, 10%. And then, as the things will go on, we have to pay. I paid. I had that in my bank.
After last time, okay,
Yeah.
where we ended last time, that
Yeah.
was when you bought Kayla the flat.
Yes, I bought Kayla the flat, and I gave 10%, which is 3,500 liras at that time it was. I think the flat was 35,000 liras. It was a lot. And it had to have a telephone and central heating from underneath, 2 lovely bedrooms, and a sitting dining room and a big veranda. And it's on the 3rd floor. You go up to the 5th with the lift, and you come down to the 4th. And then Kayla was at university. She met Ellie, a lovely tall boy, very handsome. He was very popular at the university. But he was finished already, I think, when she met him. And they start to go out together. How was it?
And he was working in the government.
And he was working in the government. He was a secretary for the Ministry of Finance, I think. Yeah. And the family was nice, family Shmid, but poor people. They had a shop, and they were doing the business was for school children uniforms. The mother was working very hard, the father was working very hard. They had a small flat, and Kayla liked Ellie very much. And they were talking, and Kayla prepared herself until the exam. She got a flat with 3 other girls, and I came, and the things I find in that flat, it was such a mishmash.
Yeah, put it
They were not joining. Sasami mapantaka chai, nataka Coca-Cola kablei berido.
here. So leave this.
Yeah.
Bring Granny a glass, another glass.
Why?
Oh,
It's
no,
not
this is
enough.
for you. Just
you drink and she'll let him get a Coca-Cola.
Okay.
It was terrible. They had one room. You cooked in the kitchen and you ate in the kitchen. And first of all, I saw that it's impossible for them to have order. So I ran away and I bought them an oven, an electric oven, to help them. And we were eating in the kitchen. And it was such disorder. It was terrible. I went into the bathroom and I walked maybe for half a day to scrub it and to clean it and to took out. They put everything in the bathroom, the wet towels and the dresses, the dirty, but it was terrible. I thought, how can one live like that? And I started to run and look for a flat for her. Maybe to buy a flat in Jerusalem. I find one flat very high, and I like that flat, and some friends recommended it. I don't know why I didn't buy. I don't know. I was very sorry for Kayla. In the end, I went away back to Nairobi, and she wrote to us that Ellie wants to get to. Ellie proposed to her, he wanted they should get married, and what about a house for them? And for them a house had to be in Jerusalem, because his work was in Jerusalem. So I came back. They got married, and it was a terrible, terrible wedding. 10 days before the wedding, I bought already with Zipporah the flat for them, a most beautiful flat.
In Kiron.
No, not in Kiron, in Jerusalem, in Mevo Yoram. A beautiful flat, 2 bedrooms, a nice veranda. It looked out in a garden. The garden belonged, it's a forest, it belonged to some missionary. You don't get in Israel a flat like this. And a very nice entrance hall and a good kitchen. Everything was excellent, and the doctor said, you'll go out soon. He is building himself a house near the hospital, and he'll go out. And I gave him an amount of money for the flat, and the rest we will pay when he gets out. And the flat was bought, and everybody was very happy. It was a very good buy. And I wrote to Abraham that the wedding is arranged for, I think, the 20th or the 25th. Or when did Abraham die? Abraham died in October, and it was arranged for October or September. I have written down. You want me to have a look? Kayla's anniversary.
Carry on.
They got, everything was arranged for the wedding, bought the things, paid for so many people we arranged we have, send out the cards, and I've written to Abraham he should come. And Abraham said, yes, he's coming. First he said he'll come 15 days before the wedding. Then he telegraphed to me and he said it's impossible for him to come before. The people are not arranged. He wants to come after he pays the wages. After he pays. So he came. I said, okay. In that case, it's okay, because the flat is already bought. As long as you come, it's okay. And you come with a clear head, that nothing will get wrong. So he came 15 days before. I think I told you this already, that they took out the pictures and we we had dinner with you.
Tell us again, because the last time it wasn't on.
No? So he came Friday. The plane arrives always Friday. He came Friday. We were all at the airport. It was such a wonderful day. Kayla was happy and Ellie was happy and everybody was like a holiday. And Abraham was very happy. He came to Israel and his daughter is getting married with a Jewish boy and a good family. Very happy. We took a taxi, we came to Jerusalem, and we were invited for dinner to the Schmids for Friday night. We came and we were sitting at the table and Zipporah, I remember like today, she gave soup and she gave chicken and some vegetables, but not nicely served. Every plate wasn't the right plate, not the right spoon. That was wrong, but it was very wonderful, good food, good company, and then Abraham started to take out from his pocket pictures and he put on the sofa. And everybody sat on the knees and looked. For the picture when she was a year, when she was 2, when she was 4, when she was 10, when it was her bat mitzvah, and when she went to Johannesburg, and when she came on holiday. The pictures he brought out, I didn't have them. I said, where did you keep them? He said, I kept them in my wardrobe. Anyway, and we had that lovely dinner, and I remember she served pudding in a meat plate. And you couldn't have the pudding. It was flat, so we put meat plate. You cut meat, but how can you have pudding in a meat plate? I was shocked. And I looked, and the wife of, not Moshe, the other one, the wife of Uri was such a post maidel, like, what can I tell you, like a charwoman. And she spoke so loud, I didn't like the company. I thought it's not our, it's not. And the plate with the pudding, that killed me. Couldn't have the plume. Something she made was very tasty, but you couldn't shift it from the, it was a flat plate. Anyway, I said later to Kayla, tell Zipporah she should buy shizelach for pudding. You buy something deep. Anyway, but they were lovely people. And we are starting to walk to our flat. And Abraham says, tomorrow is my mother's yahrzeit. I want to go into shul and say, and have Kaddish. You will wake me up. I said, I will wake you up. How can I wake you up? I go to sleep with the sunrow. Exactly in the morning I fall asleep. How will I wake you up? So Dov says, don't worry, I'll come and I'll wake you up. I get up 6 o'clock in the morning, and to me it's nothing to come and take you at 7 o'clock. So we come back home, I don't have the obligation, and I am already in bed, and Abraham starts to dress, and he shows me, he said, see, from the single jacket I can make a double one, because that it comes, well, I said, that's wonderful. With a heart condition like you have, if you could lose such a lot of weight, it's good for you. He goes into bed, and I start to tell him how Ellie muddles up things. And we talk, and I meet Narin and like we talk together. And he says, oi, a doctor an ambulance starb. I jump out of bed and I jump to Caleb. And I say, Caleb, can quickly talk to Ellie. You should bring a doctor. Daddy is very ill. And I run back to him, and in the way I think must be the food. I'll run and take peanuts in the kitchen. I take peanuts, I make with the water, and I start to give him to drink the peanuts, and I hold like this his cup, and I give him the peanuts, and he turns his cup on the side, and the shum starts to go out, and he's dead. I couldn't believe. Here I was talking to him, and here I haven't got room to talk anymore. And I, Abram. Later. What can I tell you? This is something that never in my life will I forget that. It is now 1965, Abram died. 28 years. I have the picture in my eyes. I can never forget the sight of the bed, the way he fell with his head like that, the way I had him like this, and it was finished. The doctor came and I lamented and I shouted. He said, look, Mrs. Szlapak, in the hospital it would have happened the same. He had a clot of blood. The blood didn't come to the head. It would take a second. We couldn't dissolve the blood. It was too late. You couldn't do anything. Don't blame yourself. You couldn't do anything. That was Friday night. Saturday there is no burial. Charles is in England. Morris is in America. Your father, Ellie, runs to ring Charles. He runs to ring Morris. You have to start to arrange funeral arrangement, not Saturday, Sunday. Morris came, Charles came. The funeral was Sunday evening, I think. Or Sunday or Monday. Was a lot of trouble. First, the Chevra Kadisha said we should pay, say, $500. Then somebody said they are rich people, they have a hotel in Kenya, we can get more. So they changed their mind. They said they want double. And your grandfather, he was the one that he negotiated with them. So he came to say, he says, Rochale, what can I do? They say, you are rich people, you have 2 hotels. Here we are poor, we need the money, we want double. What can you do? I pay double. I had in the bank the money. That was all our savings. I paid the money, and he was buried in a very beautiful place, in the Aramanucha. I have in the book, and Mr. Levitan, which I told you, no, you know which I told you. He inscribed, here lies a most wonderful man. He loved his country and he loved his people. I have this in the book, the inscription. So because you have to, for the inscriber, you have to give him a nusach. And he was buried. Then I start to go. In that case, in a month you can put a stone. I start to go to the quarries to look for a stone. I want a big stone, and I wanted with clear marble. I wanted one like this and one like that. I also paid out, but I managed, I paid, and after a month, instead to have a husband, I had him on the arm and over. But I was so broken hearted. I was so shocked. Mrs. Lebanon was very good to me. They didn't let me, Kayla used to go away to university. They didn't let me for 1 hour by myself. Or he sat with me in that flat in the rented one, or he came out and sat with me. It went on like this for a month, till Shiva broke us, I think. When that was finished, I started to go out to town to buy the food, prepare for Kayla food, and for me. At one time I went out from my flat and I was going to the supermarket, but I was so shocked. I couldn't see on my eyes. I thought everything is gone dark. And a car went through me like that. I was half an inch from getting killed. It was something so terrible that later on I thought there must have been something to keep me that inch that I wasn't killed. And I went into the supermarket, and there was a lady that she stayed in our hotel, an Israeli. And she complained that she doesn't want to go in the bathroom, in the bath that other people are. We got, at that time, rooms with not private bath, which communal bath. And I went to Charles, I went to Abram at that time, and I said, look, she's an Israeli. She comes from her own house. She doesn't know how to go in a bathroom with some other people that were there. Let me arrange for her a shower. It doesn't cost $1 million. It costs, but I will make the shower curtain. Give me the permission to make a shower for her. And Daddy said, okay, okay. So I made a shower for her. Then she comes in and she said, my child is hungry. She can't eat the food which you cook in the hotel. I said, Mrs. Levington, or whatever her name is, come to my house, cook in my house, feed the child in my house. I kept her maybe for 3 or 4 months in my house. Every trouble I ironed out for her. I come to that supermarket, there she is. Oh, she says, Mrs. Szlapak, what happened to you? I was completely changed. Of course I was changed. I said, Penina, my husband died. It's now a month that I buried him on the cemetery. I'm by myself now. Oh, she said, I'm very sorry. Goodbye. She went away. I couldn't get on. At that time, I needed so much a friend to say, I'm so sorry. You've done for me such a lot. Come to my house. I'll take you to my house. I will come and take you. I will bring you back. I will do what I can for you. You're in a stranger place. You don't know anybody. With such a unglück that... But to turn yourself and walk away, this is a swine. It shook me. So I went back and I brought a little bit, whatever I bought, and I prepared for Kayla. And like this we went on, Kayla and Ellie. Ellie didn't eat at home. He ate with us together, but he never went into the kitchen to help to wash up. Never. And it went on like this, and then we decided we are packing up the flat. They are coming to us, to Nairobi. He will be working with us, and Kayla will be working. and this is going to be. And we come together to Nairobi. We come together to Nairobi, and they were working, and they stayed in flat number 11. You know the flat number 12 where I am, and the next door is flat number 11. So they can come in to me through the veranda and have the meals. And they were for quite a few months, and your father didn't like. Have a look whether it goes on. You said you will see whether it's still going on.
Okay, I will just now.
Yeah, yeah. So he didn't like. He used to get very quickly tired, whatever he has done. He helped Charles, he helped mostly Charles. And as soon as we finished lunch and we had to go again to work, he used to say to Kayla, "Lecha lishon." Lecha lishon. He wants straight away to go to sleep. Didn't want to go to work back. He wanted to go, lishon, lishon. At that time, I knew that this is saccharin, darling, not sugar.
Okay.
She gave it for me. Doesn't matter, put in a little bit and ask her for sugar.
Okay, carry on.
So, lishon, lishon, lecha lishon, lecha lishon. Kayla understood it's not the right thing. We all went back to work and he went back to sleep. So they stayed a few months and went back to Israel. They didn't want to stay with us. At that time, Charles was the manager, and I did a lot of work in my office, in the rooms. It was a lot of work. We bought new material, and you had to measure it up and see whether it's correct. So at one time, he helped to measure. He wasn't happy. He thought it's below him. And they went away. I was terribly sorry, but they went back to Israel. They went back to Israel, and they stayed in that flat, which I bought for them. Your grandparents couldn't pay half like the style is that everybody pays half the colors and half the bochas. They didn't have. That is true. But they paid half of the wedding expenses. But they were good people, honest people. But Zipporah started to be ill. From one doctor to the other one, she used to go. And Dov worked very hard. And Liad was born. And I came back to them. And Liad was born, and Liad was such a schreierke. She never stopped crying. She was such a child, she could kill you. She cried in the daytime, all the day, and Kayla was all the time going with her like this, to quieten her. And in the night, it couldn't sleep, she shouted. At one time, Kayla went to her cradle. She was tired. She took her out to change her. I heard the shouting. I came out, and I sat down, and I looked how she changed herself. And she took out the schmutzige nappy, and she put the clean one, and when she had to put her back, she said, "To hell!" I cried, I laughed and I cried. I nearly platzed. She said, "I've never seen anybody in the middle of the night with such a humor." I said, "Kalinka, what do you want from that job?" "To hell," she said. She was upset with her. It was beyond everybody. She shouted and she shouted. And later on she became better. And she used to do other things. Kayla used to make the work and prepare the food and take Liat and give her to my bed. And I used to lie with her and Liat, you're now 2 months. It's time for you. You shouldn't fish such a lot. Shouldn't cut such a... It's so difficult to wash and to iron. Maybe you'll stop all this. And she used to say, she must have been about 4 months. She answered me. I spoke to her and she like understood. So Michaela said, in my life I hadn't seen a person like that. She'll nearly make her to talk. And really she nearly made me, she nearly spoke. And she was beautiful. Uri was meshuge. Uri was a great photographer. Uri photographed her. She came out of the ordinary. Eyes like that, like von ours. A beautiful white round face. She was a beautiful child. People used to stop to look at her. And Kayla was in heaven. Her doctor, she produced such a beauty. Then I was there for all the time, and then I have pain. And my mother said, Mommy, you have to go to a doctor. I think something grows there inside. So as I go to Israel, so I start to go to Hadassah. I came to Hadassah to a very good doctor. He made all kinds of tests, and he find out, he tells me, yes, Mrs. Szlapak, you must have an operation. You have on your thyroid, you have a growth. And I thought a growth, my mother died of cancer from years, she had a growth. So I have the same. He said, you must have an operation. This is not curable. I don't want to have an operation in Israel. I thought if anything happened to me, Kayla will die. But I have to take her through all this. And I had to go to England. I had to repair something that I had to do. So I said, okay, what can I do? I'll go to England, I'll make another, I'll have other doctors to examine. I go to England, and God helped, and Morris exactly came from America. And he comes to see me, and I tell him the story, and he said, come with me. And he comes with me to the best doctor in England, in London, in Harley Street, a doctor that he knows them, he studied with them together. And that doctor makes all the oh, it's beautiful. This you can laugh, you can die from laughter. Believe me, it's too beautiful. Wait. La 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 la. If I could sing like I used to sing in the olden days. My mother had the most beautiful voice. Look at that.
Mom, sounds good, Mom.
Hallo, es ist nicht Simon. Verfahren mein Jeton, am Kontra-Telefon, versonst Beton, ich packe rein und siehst, anderen Jeton, es geht hier gar nicht an, es hält nicht mein Jeton, kommt zu mir heraus, ich weiß, was ich kann. Hallo, Zentrale, hat da reingelegt der Jeton, in netten Leben, im Wesen, das zu tun.
Geht durch das Leiden und hält sich so zum Klang. Ist ein Lacher mit einem Puls gereizt. im Gegenteil, in der Farbenmanagement, am Konzert mit Tabak bereits. Prächtig Orchestrummer, die sich mit wichtiger Herr, der Beherrin Frank.
Ich drehen, drehen, drehen.
Drehen, drehen, drehen.
Ich reiß hier aus das Harz. Das hält
Dance, Granny, dance.
Hallo, so schön.
You're on camera.
Arbeit bei Simon. Nein, sie hat nicht gemacht. Das gibt Ersatz noch. Mein anhängischer Kling. Ich hab schon mit ein Herz. Sie arbeitet bei die Ohren. Und hat zum weißen Stoff. Ich bin der Jacqueline. Sie wünschen den Ding. Sie soll nicht warten dort. Sie soll nicht gehen an ihn. Hallo, ich ist Simon. Doktor Einsen. Wo habt ihr den Salon? Ich weiß. Sagen Sie, du Dr. Bruce.
Ja, genau.
She's tired.
Genau.
Doktor,
Listen,
wir
das
begraben die innerliche Krankheiten. Du kriegst den da rein. Du kriegst den da raus.
Behind the camera.
Noch halt ist mein Stolz. Ich weiß nicht, wie er soll. Ich nehm noch ein Genol. Ich mach die Buch herein. Das Telefon.
Please don't call me. I'm sorry.
Hallo, ich bin der 83. Hallo,
Just listen to the connection with
ich Herr, schönen Dank.
Take it off.
Dank. Jo, ich Herr, schönen Dank. Hallo, ich hab schon gehört, ja, ihr seid schönen Dank. Ich bin doch nicht deutsch, ich kann nicht. Ich hab schon reingeguckt, gut, ich weiß, schönen Dank.
Listen to that.
Hallo, ihr macht mir Freude, macht ihr? Ich hab schon gehört, einmal, zweimal, dreimal, fünfmal, hinter vier. Geht da rund der Linie, schönen Dank. Was meint ihr bitte? Ihr wird machen von mir Gelächter? Nein, ihr habt das Telefon. Riechen euer Telefon. Mich stopper vor. Jacqueline, sie haben mir mit Schuhe gemacht. Jacqueline,
Ciao, ciao.
The lady was still checked in. Oh, sorry, we can't open up the room until the room lady.
What did you put this man
You know how old that machine?
It must be last 30 years or not?
More.
Yeah.
More. I used to play this for Abraham. I have here one record that is specially like. It's with a father that wants his son to learn better because he says he doesn't learn, he goes to play around with Teuben. What is Teuben? What is Teuben in English?
Yeah, a dope.
Toad.
Yeah.
And somebody told him that he broke the neighbor's windows. And he says, what will become of a boy like this that doesn't learn Torah? He says, you daddy told me that you were like that. That Abraham liked very much. He said, don't talk. He said, yes, you daddy told me that you were running after those, you were breaking the windows, and you were running the Engel zum Teich. But you grew out so will I grow up, and I will be big, and I will learn Torah, and I will be a good Secharit. But this is so much piquantness, so beautiful, that everyone used to say, spill this again, spill this again. Find that record. Oh, it's so beautiful.
What?
I'm not good on candid.
This is
You're
not
very
candid.
good. How can you not be good? What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
What is wrong with you, Ellie?
Nothing. You're a beautiful girl.
Absolutely.
And this is Fiddler on the Roof. It's beautiful. La 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 la. Oh, la 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 la. This is Hitler. If you knew that beautiful song, Hitler. I have been to the show, I've seen him. He came out on the stage with both his hands in his pocket and he sang bells. That must have
I
been,
can speak, no?
that must have been 60 or 70 years ago. I have seen him 60 or 70 years ago.
Granny, that's impossible.
Yeah,
60 years ago.
60 years ago. I wasn't married then. I went to he came to our little town. He was producing bells, my Städtele bells. Do you know that song?
Granny, how can you not be married 60 years ago? Because Morris is 63 already.
No, I'm telling you that I was married in 1928.
Oh, okay.
And this which I saw Hitler was before that, when I was still a young girl, maybe 18, so maybe 70 years ago. 70 or 69 years ago. Yeah. But I'll tell you one that my mother loved me very much. My mother thought there isn't another one like me, and so is my father. But at one time in Holland, you know, you wash your clothes once a month.
Granny, let's go next door.
Come,
Too
come,
much
darling,
noise now.
come.
Enough.
Come, she is tired.
Listen, Granny.
And let them play, it's beautiful. Take and you spoil the records like that. You have to, I'll show you how to.
I put it on. So finished.
No, you take away, yes, like that, and take out. Yes. So what is it you want, Eliana?
Joel, who are you calling? Who are you calling over?
Mrs. Stockholm. I forgot to tell you that when I was small, I was all the time ill. Every illness which children have, I used to get. And my mother couldn't cope with me because there were, how many children have we been? 3 boys and 2 girls. No, at that time it was 3 boys and me, 4. And she had to have the business, so she couldn't cope with me. So she used to send me to Bialystok, to another town, to my grandmother. My grandmother had time, so she looked after me. She went to the doctor, she gave me the medicine, she put me to sleep, she woke me up, she gave me food. She was looking after me. She married, the second marriage, she married with a very religious man. So when I was in bed and I put out the food, a child of 8, he used to say, no, 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 I should take away my food. It's not good that he looks at a naked food, and I was 8 years old. Then on Saturday, I used to go, my daughter used to come to fetch me somewhere where we arranged, and I used to go with her to the forest. On Saturday, the idea was you went to the forest and you walked there, and the weather was good and the smell of the trees. That was the outing. So my granny wanted to give me an umbrella to shade myself from the sun, but she couldn't do that because it was Saturday. My grandfather would say it's an avera. So she used to, I went out and I said, "A guten Shabbos, Bobbe." So she used to say, "Geh slowly, geh pavole. And she used to come out under the apron. She had my umbrella. She used to take and give me the umbrella. Can you imagine something like that? So she looked after me every illness I was in their bed. Every illness I was in their flat. At one time when I grew up already, and my mother said, "Rochele, the washing is dry now. There you wash once a month. You take in a Polish girl. She washes for you. She hangs it up. Then you have to take down from this. It is a attic. You fold this and you go to the mango to, like ironing. You know, Eliana, what the mango is?
No.
So she said, I folded the washing and everything, go to the mango. You go about 2-3 streets farther on, there is a big thing like a train with a lot of stones, heavy. You do like that. You make a roll of your clothes, you put it underneath and it mangles. It makes it ironing. I went away. I was doing the job. Just opposite was the city garden. Suddenly I hear click, 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 click. What is it I remember now? From Warsaw, from the parliament, the one from the workers came to have a speech for our workers. My town was like a lot of factories, and all the workers were working in these factories. For the train, for the wagons, from all the places they used to bring to Lapi to repair. So he came to talk to the workers, how they are mistreated, and they are what kind of, what they can ask a lecturer. My God, I leave the mango and my clothes and everything. Boom, I ran out, I ran around the steps, up the steps, I'm in the garden, I stay and I listen to the speech. The speech took maybe 1.5 hours, 2 hours. When the speech was finished, my mother thought I should have been at home. So she looks here, she looks there, I'm not at home. So she runs to the mango. She comes in the mango. The washing is there. The mango is there, but I'm not there. She took the things back. And later on, I came to the mango. I saw the washing disappear. So I come back home. My mother gave me. How could I do things like that? All the washing could have been stolen. How could I run away when she trusted me with the washing and I should have finished it? She gave me, and I was Lord. I put down my head and I took everything. She said, now I know that I cannot trust you. And that pained me like hell. If she would have eaten me, it wouldn't be so much. That she said, I can't trust you. I said, Mommy, but I'm terribly interested in that speech. I couldn't leave that speech. I wanted to hear what it says to the workers. She said, but you couldn't, you undertook this and you didn't do that. I can't trust you anymore. Well, I remained with a lot of pain in my heart. Anyway, that happened. That happened, and I will never forget. I must have been there maybe 16, so it's 70 years ago. If I could draw, I could draw you the place where I stood like that, and I cut every word. It was the best speaker in Parliament, but for the workers.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he came to speak, I would have gone by foot miles to hear him.
Do you remember his name?
No. Yesterday I was thinking, could I remember his name? No, I couldn't. But I remember his figure. I remember he was short. I remember he was fat and he inked. And one foot was shorter than the other one. That I remember, but his name I don't remember. But I loved that man. His speech was so clever and so good. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you. So, to a speech like this, there is always police. Because the government wasn't a worker government. So when he came and all the workers were there to listen, so the surgeon and the police was there to listen. But they start to see me too much. I was then with him, I was again with him, I was again with him.
How old were you then?
I think not more than 15 or 16. And it came to my mother, they sent a message to my mother. If you will not keep your daughter away, that she shouldn't go to all and listen to the speeches, she'll be arrested. And my mother came to me and told me, oh, Hannah, you know, this one was arrested, this one was arrested. You know what they do? They put in water in them, they punish them. They put in water in them and they tramp them like this.
Mm-hmm.
They let them stand like this, they put water and it cups in their cough. All kinds of things they do to them that they should say who is more a communist, who is elf from the party.
Yeah.
She said, you want to have this on your, you want me that I should know you are in Turme? In Jewish, it is Turme.
Yeah,
You know
suffering.
what jail is in Jewish? A Turme. So she said, we'll gain in Turme. So I stopped going. That I forgot to tell you, so I'm telling you now. What I was in about when I was 16, I took over the buying for our big business.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go away to Warsaw and buy through the day a lot of things, all kinds. We had materials, we had galanterie, we had shoes, we had hats, we had coats, we had jackets, umbrellas, everything had to be bought and sent by train.
Mm-hmm.
In parcels, in big parcels we used to make. And like this it went on till I met Abraham. And as I told you, my wedding was on the 25th
25th.
of December, because the shop was closed, we had the time. That was my mother's arrangement. And it was a beautiful wedding we had. We spent a day also in Bialystok. Then we came back to our house, and everything was wonderful. Till I was in the business, and Abraham had another business that was przedstawicielstwo. Is, I think, in English you would say, an agency for shell company.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go out to Galicia. I went with him many times, bring oil and diesel, all kinds of things that factories use. So it went on till about 1935.
Was there a large Jewish community where you lived?
Yeah, there were about 300 families only, but a lot of Polish people, about 3,000 workers. But with the villages, it was a lot. There were a lot of Jewish shops. They were all coming and buying, but everything went per month. All month they were taking things, and on the first of the month, when they got paid, the workers got paid, they come and they paid on their account. It went on like that. The book for them, everyone had an account. So in 1935, we started to feel a lot of anti-Semitism. And it became very bad. The taxes were very big. So we decided Abraham should go to Johannesburg. He didn't want to go without me and the children. But it was impossible for all of us to go, so he went by himself. He was for a year in Johannesburg as a tourist. At that time he couldn't go as an immigrant. And being in Johannesburg as a tourist, he couldn't make any business. He wanted to buy land, he wanted to buy this, he wanted to buy that. He couldn't do it. He had to do everything on a friend's name, Johannesburger, a local a man like the Hollanders. So he had a plot with one Hollander, he had a garage with one Hollander on his name. But in the meantime, anti-Semitism was so bad that Morris went out. I went with Morris, I don't know whether I told you, I went with Morris to Bialystok to a doctor, and he was standing near the door. The train was running, and he stood near the door and looked out through the window, and I heard suddenly such cold on my feet. I looked up, I saw that the door is open. The man that stood near him wanted to throw him out. So I caught him for the shoulder, and I said, Meshele, come here. And I said to the Pole, what have you done? You could have killed him. Because that was in intention, he wanted to throw him out. So he said, so what, it would be one Jew less. Then Charles was playing with all the other children, and they were hanging themselves on a sledge. A sledge, you say, a schlittel. And the man looked and he recognized it, a Jewish child. He took the whip and he gave him a good over his head. And my Charles came in and the father was running from his ear. This and that all together, that nearly killed me. I got a nervous breakdown. And I was terribly ill. And I got a letter from Abraham that he is now working, he's learning farming, he will buy a farm. As soon as he will buy a farm, he will come and fetch me, or he will send me papers. Because he said the accommodation that he had outside in the garden, like in a stable, it isn't suitable for me and the children. And because things like this happened, and I saw that I can lose my children, I wrote back and I said, look, Abraham, the moment you get the letter, you are responsible for the children. In matter of fact, whenever they go out to play, I'm not sure whether I will see them alive back. So I am prepared to come and share with you the same accommodation as you have. We'll be together, and then at least we will know that the children are alive. And he showed the letter to Mr. Medic, to the owner of the farm, and Mr. Medic said, yes, I can see that the position is very bad. I'll go with you to Nairobi, to the immigration, and I will give a guarantee that I will guarantee that I am responsible for you, for your wife, and for the children. In case you can't make a living, I will pay for them.
He was first in South Africa. And
that was, when he was in South Africa, I told you, he couldn't, so he came to East Africa.
Right.
He couldn't make any business in South Africa because he was a tourist. So he went to the embassy and to the British embassy, and he said he has money. He would like to buy a farm in Kenya and be a immigrant.
Yeah.
They said, yes, we'll give you paper. You can go to Kenya and buy a farm. They wanted Europeans.
Right.
So you got permission to come in as an immigrant, and Rabbi Kosovsky gave him a letter to a very lovely family, to Levitans. When he came to Nairobi, they received him, and they introduced him to Mr. Maddox, where he was working on the farm,
Right.
to learn farming and then to buy a farm himself.
Mm-hmm.
So when he received my letter, and Mr. Maddox was so wonderful that he said he'll guarantee for us, Abraham left some of the money with him, and he came, made a ticket himself, up and down, and he came to Poland back.
Mm-hmm.
He came to Poland, he was only with us 6 weeks. And he went and he arranged with the taxes, and he arranged with the whatever we had to pay, and he made the ticket. And in 6 weeks we were in Danzig, and we waited for the ticket, for the boat. You know, when it came to the boat, and we were all standing like this, I remember like today, the men from the boat said that they give us the ticket. Abraham started to look in the pockets, he couldn't find the ticket. He looked in that pocket, no ticket. In that pocket, no ticket. In that pocket, no ticket. Puts in the hand like this, no ticket. So the man said, you know what I will tell you in Polish? Zaszyj wszystkie kieszenie. Sew up all the pockets, leave one, so you'll know where your ticket is. At last he find the ticket. But till he find the ticket, my heart nearly jumped up. I was so much wanted to be out. I felt that it's fire. We came on that boat. We came to, with the boat we arrived to, somehow we went to Marseilles, and from Marseilles we came from Marseilles to Mombasa. We came to Mombasa, got the heat, it was like again. It was something terrible. I looked at the burning sun and at the heat and the humidity, and I thought, how will we live here? But very soon the train came, and from the boat we went over to the train, and on the tomorrow morning we were in Nairobi. In Nairobi, when we came, we were received from a Jewish community on the train, with cake and with tea and with coffee. And Mr. Maddox was also there to take, his son was also came from England. And Abraham said, Mr. Maddox, you got for us a house, because he asked him to get for us a house. He left him a lot of money. And he said, no, Szlapak, I didn't get you a house. You will rent yourself a house, but if you want a place where to live for the time being, I have in town a flat. You can get that flat. So Abraham took that flat, and we came in. It was very dirty. It was closed maybe for God knows how many years, and it was impossible. I took a slough, like a garden, what you call it?
Broom.
What?
A broom?
No, a garden things like this with the water.
Hose pipe.
What?
Hose pipe.
A hose. I took a hose pipe and I went like this through all the walls. And then the floor and a lot of water, and then I took a big things and everything out like that. I cleaned up the house, we opened up, we had a lot of things. Opened up the things, and the first dinner we took from the restaurant. And then Abraham said on the tomorrow, you know what, we cannot eat in the restaurant. We'll have to cook. I'll bring you the things and you'll have to cook. I said, Abraham, in my life I haven't cooked. How can I cook? He said, don't worry. I'll bring you the things. You go into the neighbors and they'll tell you, you do it. So I went into the neighbors, correct, and she told me how to cook a kuku, a chicken. I cooked the chicken and I cooked some of it. She said on the soup, when the chicken will be ready, you take out the chicken and you can make eggs with flour and you drop on the soup such knedelach like knedelach. And I cooked, I started to cook. It was very difficult. It was on a comfort in the passage. You put in charcoal on top, underneath ashes with paraffin. You make fire till the charcoal is getting red, and then it cooks. And you have to add on charcoal. And the charcoal was in the room where we were cooking, where we were eating. The cooking was on the veranda outside near the steps. And I was cooking like this, and for a year we lived there in 2 rooms. It was one very large room with a partition.
How old was Morris?
So when we came in 1938, Morris was born in 30, so he was 8, and Charles was 5. Like this we were for a year, and then we got a house in Ainsworth Road, a nice house with 3 bedrooms, and I got a houseman, and I was with Abraham, and we managed to get a shop for natives to sell trousers, khaki trousers, long trousers, shirts, all kinds of things, coats. And we used to sell quite a lot, but somehow in the end of the year, and we lived for £5 a month. We paid rent £5, and our expenses for the month for 4 people were £5. The children went straight away to a primary school, and the suits Mrs. Levitan gave me from her sons, they were khaki shorts and khaki shirts. They were very happy. They started to learn very quickly English, and they find friends. They were very happy. Went away in the morning and came later on. It was they had friends. Shaurigani. Allah James. Allah Paramaneno. And
Did it take them a long time to learn English?
no, they learned very quickly. Very quickly. In no time, they were jabbling like anything between themselves. And Abraham knew English because he was a year in Johannesburg. I didn't know. But slowly, I started to learn. And I got the language. Swahili I learned very quickly. It didn't take me more than maybe 2 months, and I learned the language. When we were already in the shop, we had to talk in Swahili. So first of all, I wrote down the number from 1 to 20. And then I wrote down maybe 20 words. And I don't know, from hearing, and I'm most probably very easy on languages, it didn't take 2-3 months I was speaking fluently Swahili. That other Europeans, that they were also people that came from Germany, from Russia, they used to come and stay in the veranda and look like that. At one time I said, what is that? What is that, a theater or what? Why do they come? I asked the man that came, he said, I bring the people, they should see how a person can speak Swahili when she is only in the country 3-4 months. How could you speak Swahili? Well, it came to me. It was no hardship at all. Just from hearing and from writing down a few words, and I knew. So I stood with Abraham in the shop. Everything was all right, but somehow we sold and we didn't spend money. At one time he said to me, you know what, I'll bring you only old bread, from yesterday bread. I said, Abraham, why? He said, because it's 5 cents cheaper. And butter, he said, I think you better not use. Because we had to be very economical. We wanted all the money to put in the business, sell more articles. Every time we brought more and more things, and you need the money. Okay, but we had plenty of food. We weren't hungry. Fruit was for nothing. Eggs was a shilling an egg. A shilling a cook, no, an egg. 30 eggs, I think, was a shilling. But a chicken was a shilling. And meat was 40 cents a pound. Everything was terribly cheap. And it's such a lot of everything. There weren't any buyers. There was a lot of things, but no buyers. Later we took, as I told you, the lovely house, and I had a man, a Mokamba, for 13 shillings a month. And he didn't cook. He do the house, he washed and ironed, and he took the children every day at 11 o'clock. He used to take cocoa and biscuit and take the children in the school. 11 o'clock they had a pause. They used to come out in the garden to play, so they knew where he was in the corner. They came to him, they ate the cocoa, they ate the biscuit, and they were happy like anything. And every day was the same. At one time on Wednesday the shop was closed, I used to do that. So the teacher said, what kind of parents are they? To come at 11 o'clock and bring children food? What is that? Nobody does it. And the children started to tell me, Mommy, you make us shy. But they wanted the food. I sent with a boy and they all the time ate. So we went on like this, then the war came out. The war came out and a lot of South Africans came to fight. They thought that the Germans will come to Abyssinia and then they will attack here Kenya. And there was a lot of military, we became military sailors, and and Abraham went out to, in the government road it was called, and he had leaflets that we are military tailors, and you can order the suit today and tomorrow you get it ready. And he came back and maybe 6 military men were coming after him to the shop to measure up for suits, because they were coming to Nairobi on their holiday, so they used to go to tours, and there was the dancing in the evening, and it was a beautiful orchestra, and there they needed a nice shirt, a khaki shirt, they needed a tunic like this with lapels and pockets and a belt and lovely long trousers. And we took the measurement and we had a cutter and we cut it and we made it, and tomorrow it was ready. And we started to make a lot of money. And then I noticed that Abraham was very, in the beginning he was shy to go with it. He said, how can you say I should go like this? I don't want this. Abraham, what can we do? They are military tailors. They don't know the shop is where. You have to bring customers. Anyway, he has done it and he was wonderful. He took the measurement for the trousers and he took the measurement for the jacket and he wrote down, and he was happy and I was happy and everything was all right. Then we find out not far from us is our hotel for sale, so we made a contract with that hotel. We had to pay rent, but we paid, it was only 40 rooms from a Mrs. Westbrook, and she gave us for £1,000 and to pay her for a year because we didn't have the money. So Abraham got together £500, and £500, she said, it makes it gives us 40 pounds a month profit. So we arranged that 12 months to 40 pounds, it makes you 500 pounds. But she went to the lawyer, and the lawyer said, no, don't do that. They have never been hoteliers. They can spoil you the hotel. Don't give them, unless they pay all the money. But we didn't have all the money. So Abraham said, you go and talk to her. So I went to Mrs. Westbrook. I remember like today, it was Friday. He went to shul, and I went to Mrs. Westbrook. It wasn't far from the house where we live. So I said, Mrs. Westbrook, your decision is for us like death and life. In the shop which we are, we will remain always the same. We can't sort of bring ourselves out. It gives us only a living. But two of us, Abraham, my husband, would be in the hotel. I am in the shop, then we can come up. And how would you think that we would spoil the business? We can't spoil, we are business people. And only, look at Singer, I said. Singer gave everybody to pay off a machine. A machine you can take under your arm and you walk away. A hotel you can't take under the arm, and it's a war. You can't go, you can't move. You can give up. But the only things you can do, don't say, go to the lawyer and say, you will give us on our name when we will have paid after a year. And that I agree. She was a very kind person, and she was sorry for me. She said, okay, I go and I name a paper, I take a pencil, and I write Mr. and Mrs. Szlapak have made arrangements. I give them, they have to pay me 500 pounds, and 500 pounds to pay up in a year. And when it will be paid off, then I give them the hotel. Then it will be on their name. And we had to pay a rent for the hotel, 50 pounds a month. It was 7 houses, and the main house, the dining room, the kitchen, and a few rooms also for. And altogether it was 35 rooms or 38 rooms. And so Abraham started to go by bars. He used to go to buy the meat and the vegetables with the men to help him. He went by bars, he came by bars with a basket. He always bought the cheapest and the best buys, and he found out where to get cheap meat and where to get this meat and that. And he had an accountant, a man that was working in the daytime, and in the evening, have a look whether it was. Maybe it's finished.
Carry on. It's
Not
okay.
yet. In the evening, it was George. In the evening, he was sitting and doing the account with my husband. And the business went very good, and I stood in the shop and did everything what is necessary. It was on my shoulders, all the shop. The buying and the selling and the accounting. At one time, an English lady was a customer, and she took a few things, but she was a bit straight. So she said, you know, I want to take a few things, but I haven't got enough money. Would you put down in the book, and I will bring you next week the money? I said, yes, it's all right. I said, how is your surname? She said, oh, I will bring you the money, don't worry. And I thought that she's a bit cuckoo. So I opened up an account, Meshuggah. And I tell you, on Meshuggah under 58, the account is 58 Meshuggah. Then she brought me the money, and next week she gives me the money. I open up the book and I have a look. She owes me so much and so much. I put receipt that and that day. She said, so how about did you write my name? Oh my God, and she stood like that. I said, oh, Monsieur. Oh, she said, that's about it. I never forgot that. That's about it. And I put my sugar in it. Anyway, so Abraham went on and he started to be very interested in property. Where he bought the vegetables, it was a Mr. Sen. Sen said to him, Abraham, they liked him very much. Abraham, buy for me, I have on the railway a piece of land. So Abraham said, yes, I'll buy Mr. Sen. How many acres is it? So he tells him, come, let me show. So let me see it. He takes him, he sees it, he says, yes, I'm buying. But Mr. Sen, I haven't got much money. He takes out maybe 500 shillings or 300 shillings, and tomorrow I will bring you more, and like this, and like this. And he comes in, and he sends me in, I should pay for the eggs from the shop, for the meat, for whatever he took, whatever we got from the customers where they paid, we did he bought property. And what we had to pay, the shop paid. The shop was better and better and better. So I paid all the whatever it is, the food for the hotel, and he paid only the wages, the rent. I don't think they paid the rent maybe for a year. We had to pay £50 a month, but he went, it was Father Sitzeli, a very nice person. He liked Abraham like anything. He understood his position. He wanted to get up. He is an honest man. You have to help him. So he helped him. We didn't pay him for a year rent. Abraham told him, I need the money. I haven't got the money, but I'll pay you. He let him go on. He didn't pay the rent, only the wages and the other small things. A car we didn't have in the beginning, maybe for a year. Later on he bought an old Morris car, a little a lorry, like a little, what you say, a pickup.
Mm-hmm.
And the pickup was so old that wherever you went, the pickup was standing, because she got, every time you went out, she stood, she didn't want to go. She was spoiled, so you brought a mechanic, he did something, you made a few journeys, the car standing again in another road. Then it came 1943, and we took our first holiday to Malindi. Is it still going?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we took our holiday, and I came back from, and that was my how to say, I knew if I start to be sick, I'm pregnant. Anyway, Kayla was born 1943 in October, 29 October. She was so beautiful, I cannot explain it.
Was it a surprise? Kayla,
Yes,
was it a surprise?
very great surprise. It was something like all the goodness came to the house when she was born. Very cute child, always smiling and talking to herself, gobbling with her language, playing with her feet. And it was something out of the ordinary. And Abraham liked her very much. He loved her. He thought there isn't another one in the world.
Mm-hmm.
At one time, when she grew up a little bit, she must have been 4, she used to like to come. So as soon as she came into the house from the hotel, we had one of the houses from the 6 houses from the hotel. We had 2 big rooms, and the rest 3 rooms. 3 rooms we had, and 2 rooms or 3 rooms were still rented for people to the hotel. So he sat down, and she sat in the back. She stood, she took a comb, she combed him, she put in a ribbon, she collected some hair from his head, she put in a ribbon, and she put in a red pin.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sitting, and I told him, what are you letting her to to mess your hair. He said, you don't know how tasty it is. It's like one would put honey in me. When she puts it in her little fingers, he said in my head, it is so wonderful, I don't want to get up. I want her to, all the time to comb it and fiddle with my hair. So the telephone rang and they said, Mr. Szlapak, you are wanted in the hotel. So you got up and I went into the hotel with the ribbon, with the red pin. And the people looked at him and said, Mr. Szlapak, from where have you come from? A masquerade? He said, what? He said, look at your hair. Oh, that's my daughter. She combed me. Doesn't matter, he said, I wouldn't be. I am not ashamed. I would go in the middle of the street like that. My Kayla always comes me and makes me so beautiful. And then the ayah was washing, and the man that looked after the house and the cook, his name was Oyondi. So she called him Yondi. She couldn't speak out Oyondi. She used to say Yondi. At one time, Yondi was doing something, the ayah was washing. She went to the sitting room. There was a trolley with maybe a dozen of glasses. She took 2 glasses, she broke the 2 glasses, she puts on the floor. She takes another 2 glasses, boom, she puts on the floor. Boom, she puts on the floor. She finished all the glasses. But the man was hearing something cracking. What is it? He comes in, he sees all these glasses on the floor. He says, Kalinka, vevera fanyanini. And she said, Ondi, mimana fanya kashimingi. That means he asked her, what are you doing? And she said, I'm doing a lot of work. She broke the glasses, it's work. And she didn't do any damage to her hand. You would have thought with so many glasses to break like this, the little pieces, she would have cut her hand. No. She learned, the ayah was looking after her, a Kikuyu. She spoke Kikuyu. She was so wonderful. I remember only when she was very small, she did want every few hours food. And the nurse said, only every 4 hours. You have to have, how to say, a routine. 4 hours she eats, in 4 hours you give her again. But she wanted every time. So she cried. She didn't want to go to sleep. She wanted to be with us in the evening. Mostly we talk about the evening, because in the daytime he wasn't there and I wasn't there. The ayah was looking after her. But from 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I was already in the house, and he was in the hotel and in the house and in the hotel. So after dinner, I put her to bed at 8 o'clock. A child of 3 years should sleep. She didn't want to sleep. She wanted to be with her. So she cried. So I said, let her cry. Nothing will happen to her. He said, what? You have a regiment. She's a soldier for you. Went in, opened the door, took her out. I nearly platzed. She wanted food. I didn't want to give her food. I still an hour to give her. He went and gave her the food. It's not a regiment. She's not a soldier. He was much better. He wouldn't, everything he would do for her. Kayla, she could do like that. She rolled them over her finger. Over her finger she could roll them. There wasn't a thing he wouldn't do for Kayla. We used to go to Mombasa to the hotel. All the way she used to eat. Biscuits and drink. At home she didn't want to eat. As soon as we went into the car, her mouth didn't stop. She ate and she talked. Daddy, raise him. He wanted to overcome. So she was with him. So it said, raise him, Daddy. Raise him. We came to Mombasa, oh, everything what she said, I had to tell him. What did she say today? I said, what did she say today? Like all the children, she babbles. Oh, no, no, no. What did she say? Tell me. At one time in Mombasa, she had maybe 20 dolls. She put in every doll like this on the floor, and she spoke to them, and she taught them. She pretended that she is a teacher. She's a dancing teacher, and they came to dance, and she tells them how to dance, and she reprimanded them that they didn't do. I passed by the room I have, talking. Valerie, it is wrong. You didn't put your foot properly. Valerie, sit down. You make too much noise. Stephanie, do like that. You don't know how to do. You have to be on the corner of your finger, of your toes. Look at you how you stand. Oh, what is she, sugar that made of? She had a class, a dancing class in the room. I went in at the Kelika. What are you doing? She said, I teach them. They are my pupils. Because when she was 4, I was taking her already for dancing lessons. You notice like Kayla stands? She was going for ballet lessons. She was going for singing lessons. She was going for playing. She had here near the house, Daddy made her like a big room with a lot of wire netting. She must have had maybe 50 little animals. She had white pig, white mice. She had kruleks. She had rabbits. She had mongoose. She had whatever there is an animal, Abraham bought her and put in her menagerie. Before she got to school, she went, she fed them, she talked to them, everyone had a name. She came back, she didn't come to the house. First she went to her animals, played with them, spoke to them. They were rushing like this over there, the white mice. It was her pleasure. And cats she liked very much. Wherever she saw a cat, she brought to the house. At one time she went in town and she saw a cat in a dustbin. She brought the cat. It was a little cat as big as that, without a mother. She brought the cat and she brought me a bottle, a little bottle, a doll bottle and a tooth. And she used to feed the cat. But in the night she was asleep and the cat was meowing and meowing. I used to get out of bed, take a towel on myself, take the cat and feed the cat. 2 times in the night, 3 times in the night. What she wouldn't do. We had a dog, it was, how did we call him? A most wonderful dog. Paddy. Paddy. This dog she used to put on ribbons. She used to make all kinds of material and pin up like a goat. She sat for hours and cleaned him between the toes. Maybe she'd find doodles in the ears. She'd talk to him, she'd kiss him. She'd be with the dog all the time, Paddy. And Paddy was the most lovely dog. At one time, I used to write to Sam, when he is in Johannesburg, that he should help me, that we should come to Johannesburg. But I think that Edith took away the letters. She didn't want us to come. She knew it is an expense. And we didn't have a post office box, but we had post-restant. So before I went to the business, I used to go, and Paddy used to come with me on the bus. I used to pay for myself for the bath and for Perry. I sit here and he sit there on the next, like that. Everybody was surprised. What kind of a dog is that? Over she goes with the dog and he sits and she pays for him. And when the bus stopped near the market, I used to go to the post office, buy food, and he was going after me. In the end, I got a letter. I never went to the post office again. But Perry was coming again every day to the post office. I came down from the bus. He came with me. He went to the post office. I came down and went to the shop. He went to the post office. People asked me, what is your dog doing every time? Everybody knew. In the post office, I said, I think he waits for a letter from his girlfriend. Can I tell them? At one time, he was walking. He was very brave. Walking, and there was a butcher shop, and the window was very low, and it was displayed meat, and it was a long oxtail. He went into the shop, he took the oxtail, like this, walked, came to the shop, put near my feet, the oxtail. I said, I don't care, baby, what have you done? I find out later on he took from the butcher the oxtail. He used to go with me, but sometimes I used to lock him up. I didn't want to take him. So maybe after an hour, they opened the bedroom. He ran out. He took the bath. He knew how to take the bath. He knew where to stop. He used to stop where he had to stop, where he can come to the shop and come in and say, I have to say, why did you let me? You went away, you didn't take me. And the conductor tomorrow, when I was on the bus, he said, pay me the money. Your dog was, yesterday I brought you the dog. Pay me the money. I paid. That was an unusual dog. That dog could talk. Ah, yeah. Quelle, James.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My God, that dog, and the children loved him. In the end, he was 13 years of age. The children were mad about Perry. It was something, an unusual dog. And he got piles, and it was very bad, and he was very old and very sick. And I went with him, the children went with him, Morris and Charles, took the pickup and they went with him to the doctor. And the doctor said, he's very old, he cannot make the operation for him, because in any case he will die, and it is a crime to keep him and let him suffer like this. He gave him an injection. He gave him an injection, and the two boys, Morris and Charles, came in back with Paddy dead. They made a grave in our garden. They buried him in the garden, and they planted a tree. And that was the end of Perry. And then they murdered me. I should take another dog, and I said, no. In Perry's place, nobody is going to come. No, 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 no. I got only a dog when Mariam came. And Mariam came, she started to bother me. She was a great lover for dogs. She said, you mustn't be by yourself, you must have a dog. At one time she brought me, for a birthday, she brought me a most beautiful white dog. I've never seen anything like that. She came in like that with a dog. She said, Mommy, I brought you a dog for your birthday, a present. I was very happy with the dog, but he was a pedigree. And a pedigree, you have to be with him every day by the doctor. They get all kinds of illness. He was one like this illness and like that illness, and all the time it was something else. And at one time I took him to the doctor, and the doctor said, you'll give him an injection, he's very ill. He gave him an injection, I put him in the kitchen to sleep. In the morning I got up, he was dead. The injection was too strong for him. So it was finished with that dog. So Marian got me this one, Fella. She started to bother me, and she said, I'll bring you a taro bread. I said, no more taro bread. They wanted 3,000 shillings. She was ready to pay. I said, no, I'm not taking a taro bread. I'm going every month to Mombasa. There is nobody to look for the dog, and I can't take the responsibility. So she said, so come to the SPCA, we will get a dog that hasn't got a home. So I came with her to the SPCA, and I liked Fella. She looked at me, her head, I liked very much her head, but she was small. She was only 1.5 years, she was like that, not bigger than that. I said, yes, I'll take Fella, but I cannot take her now, I have to go away for a few months. I'll pay you, and I want you to stay there, you know, and give her all the injections, and I will pay for everything, and for her keep, and when I come back, I will collect her. So it was like that. When I came back, I paid them whatever the bill was, and I brought Fella home, and we never looked back. She was a very wonderful dog. So she is with me from 1981. So she is now 12 years old. And 12 years is 84. Because it's a year is 7 years. And she is really getting very old. Very difficult for her in the morning. Today in the morning I let her out at 6 o'clock. And she was going already up and down. She was nervous. She needed to go out. I opened the door, I said, okay, Fella, okay. She was very slow. I could see that she is not young anymore. Anyway, so this is that. What more do you want me to tell you?
Tell us about Charles and Morris when they were young.
Well, they were lovely. They were good scholars, but very mischievous. Charles used to get beaten a lot. At one time he knew he was getting caned. So I saw he went away, and somehow the bag, the tochen was full of white. I said, Charles, what is that there? He said, Mommy, I put in towels, I'm going to get caned. But when he came back, he had stripes over his tochen like that. He went into the bath and I had a look. I was frightened. He used to get a lot of, he was talking all the time. Very talkative. It was in his report, talkative. But a lovely boy with a lot of friends, and he liked to go to the cinema. He has a very beautiful voice. So I want him to learn at least the guitar. So I bought him a guitar, and I took him to a Polish lady, a teacher, to teach him. And he went to her for a few lessons, and she said he has a very good ear, and he is very promising. But then, have a look, maybe it's finished.
No, carry on.
But then, he came one Sunday, he used to go Sunday, he was in the boarding school, so he could only Sunday and Saturday go for the lessons. He came Sunday, I said, Charles, you have to go to the lesson. He said, Mommy, I'm not going anymore. Why? Look, Mommy, he said, I'm not going to give away the cinema for the lessons of playing, of learning the guitar. I don't want to learn the guitar. So it was finished. And he didn't want, and I spoke to her, and she was full of praise. And we could pay for him, but he didn't want. He wanted to go to the cinema. The cinema was for him everything in the world.
What was it then when Charles was caned? and
He
you
was
changed
came
the
from
principal.
yes, and when he was already in the high school, they were all asleep. He was a boarder, he and Morris, and a friend of Morris's, what was his name? Monroe. Monroe was a policeman, he had a car. He came to take his brother, and it was already 10 o'clock, they were all in bed, and Monroe came into their dormitory and said, boys, who wants to come? Comes with me, I give you a ride in the car. So Monroe went, the brother, and a few other boys, and myself. He put on a red towel. He was already asleep in little shorts. He put on a towel only like this, and he went in the car. They went Nakuru way. They went over 10 miles or 5 miles. The car stopped. The car didn't want to go. They start to look, the petrol is out. So one of them, I don't know how they arranged, they had maybe some of the servants, had to go to a petrol station and get the petrol. And then they did something to the car, and then he brought them back. But in the meantime, the one that looks after the dormitory came in and he saw the beds are not there. The boys are not there. And Szlapak, Charles Szlapak also not there. When they came in and they went into bed, frozen, it was raining, then they nearly froze to death, and it was 4 o'clock they came back to the school. It was a tragedy. But in the morning they said to him, the headmaster needs you. So he had to go to the headmaster. He said, Szlapak, you were a naughty boy, you ran away in the middle of the night, you are getting 12 canes.
Sure.
Lie down. He lie down. And he boom, 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 and you account. He got his portion, and when he got up, he said, thank you, sir. So he said, well done, Szlapak. No, well taken, Szlapak. When he told me this story, I couldn't believe. How could you, I said. He came to and you tell him, thank you, sir. He said, this is how you have to do, mommy. I have to thank him, but it's nice, he said, that he told me well taken. And everybody knew that the Szlapaks come at 6 o'clock to see their children every day. Whether it was raining, whether it was, I remember when we used to go, the sun was always in the eyes like that. So we used to go, they run into the car. I used to have for them strawberries with cream, cocoa, kirchala, take them vodka meal with the towels. After they have dinner, then they have a shower, and then they click like this in the dormitory. Run out with a towel, eat the strawberries, eat the cream, give us the dirty clothes, take from us the clean one. We talk, then they run to school, we run to the house. Then we go and have dinner. Every day like that, till the headmaster said, Szlapak family, I've never seen such parents. What kind of parents are they? You don't see anybody else, only the Szlapak family every time. At one time, I come by myself, it wasn't Abraham, with the driver. I go to the children, and on the way I see a few Polish people that stay in our hotel. I say, oh, you want to come and have a leave? Come, I'm going to the children. I was sorry for them. They were working all the day, and their biggest pleasure was to go around the corner and buy themselves a chocolate or ice cream or anything. I saw them coming, I took them for a ride. Kayla was there, and she took her kettle, the little kitten, and she had a friend. She took the friend and the friend's mother and 2 Polish ladies. And all, at that time we had like a combi. The driver and me, we come to the children, we give them the food, they give me the washing, I give them the clean washing. The driver starts the car doesn't want to go. And we stay, it's like a hill, and you go down like that. The car doesn't go, and it crew, the car doesn't want to go, doesn't want to stop. So he says, you know what, I could push the car if somebody of you could take the wheel. So there was a girl that I also took for a ride, Lucia. She's now in Haifa, a very rich lady. Lucia said, oh, Mrs. Szlapak, I have license. I can drive it. No, she didn't say license, no. I can drive a car. I said, Lucia, you are sure you can drive this car? She said, yes. She goes out from the other side. She comes, takes the wheel. The driver gives a push. We start to go downhill. She fiddles with the thing. She doesn't know how to stop. And the car runs. And she runs down. And we come to the main road, and she passes the main road. We could have been all killed. And we come to a field. And the car runs, and she can't stop the car. And I see from far a ditch. And my God, we are all going to be killed. But how do I save Kayla? So I say, Kelika, come and stay near the door. And I open the door, and I jump out. And my idea was, as I'll jump, I'll catch her. But I couldn't catch her because I fell. And she didn't jump after me. And the car goes. And I lie on the floor. From far, there was a lady that she knew me. And she had 2 sons, mechanics. And she said, look, Stefan, this is Mrs. Szlapak. She fell out of the car. Run to the car, something must have happened. They ran, the car had such a platform. They stood up with the 2 feet. They saw that she fiddles like this. She can't do anything. They went into they stopped the car. We saved all of them. But while the car was going up and down, the Ketzeler was underneath, the Ketzeler was killed. Okay, we come home, we are all like from death. Like we would come from the death house. And I said to Kayla, Keninka, never tell Daddy what had happened. Because first of all, he'll throw out Lucia from the room. Lucia was being in the hotel and paying. But to do things like that, she doesn't know how to stop a car, and she says she can drive a car. I knew Abraham what it would be. He would throw her out the same, in the evening, in the street she would go. I said, don't tell Daddy anything. If God saved us, we are alive, forget about it. But Daddy mustn't know. Kayla kept the word, she never told Daddy. But whenever he told her, Kelika, go into the car, we are going, she didn't want to go. She stood. He said, what is with the kid? What is the trouble with her? I tell her to go in the car. She doesn't move. What is with her? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But she didn't tell him. Never. She didn't tell him. And Lucia stood with us till she went away to Israel. Then he says, and who is the Ketzeler? Oh my God. I knew that the Ketzeler was killed. I said, the Ketzeler, I think, ran in with the children in the school. It was a good answer. But let us go on a foot. It should not say long. We came late. And early morning, I got up very, very early morning, and the driver came with me, and I find the keys. So that was the episode with Dad. And Maurice was still with Charles in the boarding school, but Charles was going on and Maurice was already finished, and he was very interested in medicine. He used to collect all the animals whichever he saw, and he cut them up and put them in vinegar, and always he used to put this under my bed. At one time we were in Mombasa and I was very ill. I don't remember what it was, I was very ill. And we had a small hotel over the ferry. I was lying in bed and then I got up and I wanted to take my slippers and I saw a lot of tins. I started to take out the tins and in every tin was a dead animal. And he held it under my bed. I said, how could you do things like that? He said, Mommy, it's very wonderful to see what's inside. And he was very clever. From the beginning, he was a doctor. And then when he was 18, he went away to England. He went to Millfield. But I remember we didn't want, Abraham didn't want, I didn't want him to go to England because I thought he will become a snob and not Jewish, he will meet all kinds of people. We wanted him to go to South Africa, to my brother. But he didn't want, he only wanted Cambridge. And we didn't have the money, so the headmaster said, never mind Szlapak, I will pay for him, you will give me back the money. You know, he paid maybe for a year.
Really?
Yeah. And we gave him back, of course, we gave him back the money. And I said, I don't want him to go, he'll become a snob. He said, but later he'll change. He said, when I was at university, my father used to come and he had a old hat, and I was shy that my friends shouldn't see him. They used to laugh at him, the man with the old hat. But he said, when I grew up, I loved my father. I wasn't ashamed of my father. Your son will be the same, give him his chance, he said. You can't pay, I will pay, and you'll give me back the money. He was very successful, but he was a good boy. He cost us a fortune because Cambridge cost a lot and he wanted to belong to the clubs. But for himself, whenever he had a holiday, we saw him maybe once a year, not more. He was working, he was doing farm work, he was, at one time he wrote to us that he came to a farmer and the farmer told him, take down this hill, dismantle this hill. So he said he was working days and days. Later he paid him a few shillings and he gave him food. He was working, all the holidays he was working, to keep himself and to help to have money because we couldn't send him as much as he needed. He was a very great worker. How was it later on when Abraham was interested in business and he bought one business after the other one. At one time we were so much in debt that I was sure we will collapse and they will sell us out. But Charles said, Daddy, if you will, Charles was studying in Pietermaritzburg farming. And he did a few years and he wanted to go to New Zealand and study more. And then somehow he decided law, I think, and he worked here for a lawyer. But he was very devoted to Daddy and wanted to help him. So when we, in 1963, Abraham made arrangement for 20 years he got a mortgage to build 12 bachelor flats. And he worked out the mortgage. He worked out the mortgage, and the independents came in, and the people, and they everybody thought they will kill every European. Because when it was the Mau Mau, the Europeans, the English soldiers were very rash with them and killed a lot. So we were sure that now that they got independence, they'll pay back. And everybody ran. And all the properties were empty. Apparently there was at that time 400 empty flats. And Abraham got the mortgage for 20 years and brought a builder to start to build. And I and Charles, we thought they will sell us out. He started to build. There aren't any people to take the buildings. Nobody is renting. Everybody runs. So I implored Daddy not to do it. And Charles asked him, Abraham said, what will be with everything, will be with that. If I have to lose the Manor Hotel and the Fairview Hotel, I'll lose that also. I made arrangements. It cost me more than £1,000 to get the mortgage and everything. I'm going to build. And he was right. He started to build. At that time. There was a company, an Italian one, Campagnola. In Campagnola, I had from Italy, he brought out maybe 6 cousins and more workers from Italy. And they didn't have any work. And when Abraham gave them that work, they gave for half a price. And it didn't take 9 or 10 months, everything was ready. We had 12 flats ready. And 12 on top. 12 underneath and 12 on top. 24 flats. In no time it was built up. But we didn't have any customers who should take it. And Charles took in hand and he started to go from office to office. And he had a lot of friends, him finishing the high school and going to university, meeting people. He knew everybody. And he was very, everybody liked Charles. He didn't take long, and he brought us six agreements for 6 flats for 2 years or 1 year, and in advance the money. For a year in advance the money, 6 flats. He rented straight away. The downstairs had to be to a hotel or for bachelor, but from the 12 flats, 6 is rented away to RAF. And he managed more flats, and he did this and he did that. He was going with Daddy, and he said, Daddy, I'll clean you up. We had mortgages, my God. Daddy used to sit till 2 o'clock in the night and sort out his papers. He used to buy the vegetables for the Manor Hotel, the vegetables for the Fairview Hotel. Everything what he needed, he used to buy with his own money, and then sort out the cash sales, what he spent. He was working day and night. And whatever somebody said, Szlapak, buy, he bought. He didn't have money, never mind, he used to say, let them be worried. I know I will pay, so it will take time, and God will help. He believed very much in God. At one time, but we had to pay £10,000 in a place, otherwise really we go bankrupt. He didn't sleep for nights. Charles was very worried. I was terribly worried. Where are we going to have the money? He goes here, he goes there, he asks, nothing doing. He can't get the money. But he thought, I'll go to Darevsky. There was an old man, a lovely person, very rich. He started in I think, Australia. He was stooping Wegele with fruit, selling fruit. And then he didn't like Australia. He came to Kenya and he did some kind of business and he was successful, he made money, and he started to buy land and property and buying and selling, and he became a very rich man. He had shops and shops and shops that he collected rent, and he had a lot of money. But he liked very much Abraham. They spoke the same Yiddish. Abraham was very piquant. He liked Chochmes. He liked Chochmes. He used to sit sometimes with us till 12 o'clock in the night and tell us stories. At one time he came out with a story that his second wife, which he married, all the time she said she wants more things and more things, and she wants new furniture, and she doesn't want they should bring furniture from the auction, and she wants new curtains, and she wants this, and she wants that. And he said, no, we have to be economical. You can't just spend the money. Never mind I have money, but you have to look after money. She said, you know, at one time a friend of mine married a man, and also a very rich man, but he didn't bother her much. He died in a few years' time. And she had all the money. He said, I'm very sorry, my darling, I can't oblige you. And he got so upset with her, he sent her away to England. He went to the lawyer, to Adina's father, and he made £50 a month. He gives her, she should go and live in England. He doesn't want her here. And he told us stories. Abraham was lying on the floor. He said at one time, one lady said, collected all her friends. She said, come to me for tea. And she made tea and she made cake and she was so happy. And the lady said the cake and ate the tea. And then they said, speech, speech, speech. Make us a speech, Miss Rifkin. It was Rifkin. Make us a speech. She got up and she said, ladies, I thank you from my bottom. She wanted to say, she thanked them very much from her heart. Said, thank them from her bottom. He told us stories. And every story was nicer than the first one. Then at one time he said the same lady had a very great friend, one doctor. I knew him. He looked after my Kayla. And he came and he said, Mrs. Rifkin, how are you? I came to you for a cup of tea. Oh, she said, come for a cup of tea and come and see my garden. So she goes with him in the garden and she said, look at my combination. She won't say coronation. Look at my combination. She said she couldn't read, she couldn't write, but her husband was a great sailor. And he used to go out in other towns here from Nairobi and make business and send her a telegram. So she brought to Darevsky to read the telegram. He started to read the telegram. She was always very busy. She used to say, laugh is door. She doesn't even want that he should read and know what there is laugh. Then that's enough. Laugh is door. He told us. Then Abraham went to him. He said, Abraham, what was his name? I forgot. Darevsky is the surname. Mit mir verkaufen, they will sell me. You have to save me. I need 10,000 pounds. He said, what's he geschehen? He said, well, this is that, that's a mortgage. And I have to give to that day. It was something with a bank, I don't remember. But it's 10,000 funds, and if I don't pay in tomorrow, then it will be very bad.